freedom of not knowing. Lessons from Montaigne. Have you ever considered how much of your suffering comes not from life itself, but from your desperate need to control it? Not just the external work, bills, routines, but the internal. The craving for certainty, for knowing exactly who you are, where you are going, and what tomorrow holds. Society teaches us to seek definitive answers, to treat life like a mathematical equation with a perfect solution. But real peace, the peace you crave, lies not in control, but in the courageous acceptance of uncertainty. Maybe you live in a permanent state of anxiety, seeing every unknown as a threat to be conquered. Perhaps you are tired, exhausted by the futile effort to predict the unpredictable, by plans that crumble with the slightest breeze. But what if the enemy is not uncertainty itself, but your refusal to embrace it? Michel de Montaigne, a 16th-century French thinker, understood this long before modern psychology did. While others sought rigid systems and absolute truths, Montaigne turned inward. He observed his own mind with brutal honesty, embracing his contradictions, doubts, and fears without trying to resolve them into something neat and final. His great insight was simple yet radical. Living well is not about knowing everything, but about being willing to live with questions. Montaigne's writing is not an attempt to teach from on high. His essays are mirrors, invitations to think, doubt, and observe yourself with patience. In a world obsessed with having definitive stances on everything, he offers a liberating alternative: the freedom to be human before being ideological, to embrace fragility and contradiction as vital parts of life. This is what you need to hear now. You are not required to be complete to be worthy. You are allowed to change your mind, to grow, to not have all the answers. Montaigne understood that constancy belongs to mechanical minds, not living ones. Life flows. Our thoughts, feelings, bodies, and desires all change, and resisting this truth only deepens our suffering. The more you seek to control everything, outcomes, people, the future, the more frustrated and anxious you become. It's like trying to hold water tightly in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. Anxiety is nothing but the fear of unpredictability, and in trying to dominate the flow of life, you wage a hopeless war against reality itself. Montaigne chose a different path: conscious surrender. Not resignation, but brave acceptance. He practiced deep self-reflection, not to control himself, but to listen inwardly with honesty. In doing so, he discovered that much of our suffering comes from trying to fit into an idealized, rigid version of ourselves, instead of accepting our mutable, imperfect nature. He invites us to cultivate habits that foster inner freedom, to question our certainties, to write as a way to understand ourselves, to embrace impermanence, to laugh at our flaws, and to spend time in silence. These practices do not lead to a life without problems. They lead to a life lived more lightly, with less resistance and more grace. Montaigne teaches us that real peace is not the absence of problems or the achievement of perfect knowledge. Real peace begins when you look inward and dare to say, "I don't know, and that's okay." It is in that space of humility that true freedom is born. A freedom that does not depend on the changing winds of fate, but rests firmly within. You don't need to control everything. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need to show up to your life as it is, open, adaptable, and human. In letting go of the illusion of control, you take the first step toward true inner liberation.